Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. In this video, I want to do a simple follow along where we just simply line this Jason mask right here, and then maybe we'll come back and pack in some white. But for this one, we're going to simply focus on creating the base structure of this tattoo as best as we can do it. I will be leaving this design for you in a link down below so you can screenshot it, print it out on your end should you choose to follow along. For this video, the gear that I'm going to be using is going to be the MusoToku Mercury M1 tattoo machine. I am running around 6 volts as of right now. If that changes, I'll let you know. I'm going to be using a CNC 003 round liner for accuracy. I'm working on Reelskin fake skin and on top of a Reelskin hand. I'm also using Phantom tattoo gloves along with simple Scotch shop wipes and simple petroleum jelly to clean up my excess ink here. I'm also using dynamic black tattooing ink to apply this design right here. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description below so you can check out the gear featured in this video in case you'd like to match it up on your end. The first place I'm going to begin is by basically identifying where I'm going to start building this tattoo from. So for me, I feel like if I were to start maybe in this area right here and then kind of work my way on up, I feel like that would be a good approach. It would also help me be able to work a little bit more easier. So since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start with the side that's closer to me, which is going to be all of this area right here. And then from there, I'm just going to keep on working my way until I've completed this design. Now, if I'm scared of essentially losing my design, some cool things that we can do with this pixel sort of design is we can kind of start mapping out the points. So let's say if I were to start right here, what I can do is kind of identify this point and this point by just putting a little indicating dot there. It's barely grazing the skin. If I wipe away, you can barely see them. From here, I can kind of repeat this little graze process. And keep in mind, I'm not putting any pressure on the needle. I'm just letting the needle make a few rounds, enough to make a marking where I need. So all I'm doing is I'm essentially identifying these A's and B points with this little marking style here. It's also important to remember you don't need extra pressure. Like, you don't need to dig this needle in there because I'm using a small needle. If you're using a little bit larger of a needle, then your needle may need a little bit more time to deposit that dot there. But you can see now I have some markings here, so I can be a little less stressed about losing the stencil in this area. What these markings do for me is they're essentially connect the dots. So for example, I can kind of go from here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this line straight down this way to this dot right here. And I'm essentially going to begin applying these pixels. So from here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go this way, identify my A point and my B point, like so. You can kind of see how I have a cross here now. And then from here, I'm going to repeat. So here is this dot, and then I'm going to bring it up to this dot right here. And we will repeat throughout the entire process here. So from here, you can see that this line right here, this one goes all the way down here. Do I need to connect it all the way down there right now? Probably not, no. So I'm going to do what I feel is closest to me and what's more acceptable. But you can go all the way down and connect it if you'd like. Since I'm only working on this area, I feel like I'm going to stay in this area here. So the same thing with this one. I'm going to go ahead and come back over here. And we're going to apply that like so. I'm going to dab away after each one, put a little bit of ointment, and make sure that these lines are coming out nice and clean. And I'm essentially going to keep applying the design like this all the way throughout. I could fill in as I go. That's perfectly acceptable too. There really is no right or wrong. It really just depends on the artistic workflow you would like. So from here, here's my next line that I'm going to go ahead and connect. I'm going to go back for some more ink. I always want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Here's another line that we're going to connect. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go this way. Like so. And then I'm going to go this way. I'm just using the very, very tip of the needle to graze the skin. but since it's a fine needle, it deposits the ink in the manner that I need. You can see this line starts right here, and I'm paying attention to all of that. I feel like if I'm able to apply it in one clean go, it'll make for a cleaner pixel. No, I'm just kidding. But it'll make for a cleaner pixel. So here we go right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. So here's the dot, and then I'm going to kind of bring it down. Just like that. I'm going to dab away. So far so great. I can continue this process this way here. Now, since I know the ends, I don't need to use the dots, but if you were worried about losing the stencil, or if you are losing your stencil, like let's say you had ointment and then you start rubbing this area, then by all means, go ahead and start mapping out those pixels. You know, you can go ahead and place your dots here, so that way you can see your starting and ending points to kind of keep you on track. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it comes down to your artistic flow and how you want to do things, but there really isn't a right or wrong, especially if we're accomplishing the results that we set out to accomplish. Let's go ahead and keep working. You always want to make sure that you have adequate ink flow. I try to just put the very tip of the needle into the ink cap as well, so that way I don't get ink pulling, especially when working with deep, tighter areas or a smaller needle. I prefer to see the needle deposit the ink each and every time. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Nothing really changes besides where we're depositing the lines into and maybe the direction that we're going in. But in terms of workflow, we want to keep it the same throughout the entire process here. So kind of the same thing. I'm going to start like right around here. And then I'm going to bring this line this way. There we go. And I can go ahead and come back this way over here. And these are all A to B points. So A to B, A point, B point. There we go. And then I can continue. It's up to you as the artist. If you want to apply the entire lines first, you can. There's nothing wrong with that, as I mentioned multiple times. You can also fill in as you go, either or. If you're doing this like really lightly and your client isn't really like feeling it or reacting, or the skin is actually like not showing any red or swelling, then you may be able to actually line everything, so that way you have all the boundary established, and then afterwards you may be able to go back and fill everything in without putting the client through extra pain or overworking the skin. So since I feel confident with my technique using a 3-round liner, I'm going to actually go and lock in the entire integrity of the design, and then I can go back and fill in everything. I feel like that would be a good approach. Typically I pack as I go, but for this one I'm going to change it up a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to come back up here, so that way I have more freedom to have my hand rest in this area without risking losing the stencil. So do the same thing this way. And then this one's going to go up here, like so. This way. And then this way. And then I'm going to go this way, like so. And then I'm going to just fill out this last line right here. There we go. So now I have more freedom to kind of get more comfortable in this area as I work these areas over here. So if I go back over here, I can kind of focus in right here. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink to get a little bit of ointment here. Wipe away excess ink to see how good these results are coming out. Not bad at all. And then I'm going to continue. So here I have my A point. And then I'm going to make my way on over to my B point like so. Same thing. And then right here, we're going to go this way. And I purposely cut into here so that way it can remind me that this line is going to go that way. So there we go. And then from here I can begin in these little areas right here. So that's basically the idea, is I'm practically building the base of this tattoo in a manner that benefits my workflow. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away. Let's go ahead and wipe away. There we go. And then from here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to move on over to the eye area so that way I can kind of work these areas here. And you can see how I established a pixel using lines that intersect through them all. This is how I keep that pixel integrity as well. So you can see like this line right here intersects. So if I go right here, you're going to see it intersects this way. That's one big thing that you need to pay attention for when you're applying pixel tattoos, is the intersecting lines. The intersecting lines are probably the most important part, and then everything else comes into play, because if it's a pixel tattoo, we need to capture those square ends. And if we're not paying attention to the intersecting lines and the starting and end points, it's going to be really easy to turn these squares into like round squares, and that's not what we want. We want to keep them sharp. They don't have to be necessarily ideally perfect, as that's next to impossible, but you still want to have them. You still want them to read like a, you know, sharp pixeled edge. So you can see this intersecting line is going to go all the way through here and throughout this way as well. And then right here, I'm going to go back right here and then up this way to connect it. And you can see how that intersecting line connects to all of those pixels. Same thing right here. I'm going to go this way, bring it this way, bring it this way, and then come down this way. Same thing right here. And one more. Capturing the integrity of that pixel. And then you can see that I have this entire side pretty much done. And then from here, what I can do is I can start working on these areas right here, building up that area. I can essentially just keep it going. I'm gonna keep this going here. Now, I could also, for the sake of demonstration, turn it this way, so that way you can get a better view on it, and I can keep working it with the exact same logic. So that would be equivalent to me kind of maneuvering myself around the client here. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of come right here, and then this way. Now, there was actually a better choice to make in this specific predicament, considering my location and where I am at and my position. You can see how this hasn't been touched yet. So to me, it makes more sense to get the areas that my dominant hand is closer to, so that way I don't ever lose any part of the stencil, and that keeps the tattoo process as stress-free as it can be, but also keeps the entire tattoo flow intact. So here is the A point. I'm going to go ahead and place this down as best I can to keep the skin from flapping. And I'm going to make my way to my B point. There we go. And then from here, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to come around this way. I'm going to bring it back around that way. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and There we go. And then I'm going to continue moving this way. So now I have a bit more freedom. I'm confident that I'm not going to lose that part of the design, which frees up more comfortability for me to apply this more cleanly. I'm not saying that we have to be necessarily afraid of the stencil, but what I am saying is that we definitely have to be mindful, because if we start losing the integrity of a design, especially like this, like a pixel design, that's not going to be really well, because this has to be pixel perfect. And you can see this line is a little bit off, but nothing's perfect. I'm perfectly okay with that hiccup right there. I'll just adjust accordingly, even things out when we fill in everything. There we go. Same thing right here. Bring it this way. And then bring this way, like so. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's coming out great. I'm going to put some ointment here so we can see the quality of the work here. Not bad at all. So if I really want it, I can just kind of even this out like so. And then I'm going to keep it moving. So this way, I'm going to go ahead and lock in this area right here. There we go. And then I'm just doing this as cleanly as I possibly can, going for practical results. I'm not shooting for something that I can't do or something that I'm not. I know my capabilities, and what I can do is follow this exact flow to accomplish a clean read by the time this outline is done. So if I go this way, I'm going to go ahead and navigate right here real quick just to lock in this eye. There we go. There we go. And then from here, I can go ahead and bring this way and then keep it going. So far, I like the way that everything's reading. I even have a line right here that kind of drifted, but once I'm done applying it, that's not gonna be prominent or noticeable. I'm gonna bring this down this way. There we go. And then I'm going to continue. So as you can see, now I have more freedom to actually plant myself here without having to over worry or stress myself out that the stencil is going to get lost. And I'm just going to keep applying the lines that are neighboring one another. So for example, I'm doing this, I'm just going to kind of work my way that way. Now another smarter play would be to actually start from this area and then work that way. So that's not bad either. So let's go ahead and begin that. So let's go ahead and line these. And one more. And then from here, I can connect those squares like so. And then I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go this way. Same thing, we're going to repeat that the same way we did the others. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing, exactly like those. I'm going to go ahead and A to B all the way through. A to B, A to B, A to B, and A to B. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away, see the results, and that's looking pixel enough for me. And then I'm going to do the same thing. We're just going to continue out the rest of the integrity of this outline. Pretty much exactly the same way that we have been. If you notice, nothing has really changed throughout this process besides the direction of the line that I'm applying and maybe the length of it. There we go. I believe that was all of them going right and left. You can see how I'm getting all of the intersecting lines. And now I can go ahead and do all the up and downs now. There's also one more right there, but I'll get that one as I go up and down. So these next lines are going to be the lines going up and down here, so that we can start connecting everything. So I'm going to go ahead and just start right here. I'm going to bring this back. Same thing over here. And over here as well. So you can see that I have freedom to now put my hand here and fully plant it without having to stress about losing the stencil. There we go. And then I'm going to go from A to B, A to B, A to B, and A to B. So that right there, it looks as though that's the complete outline for this Jason mask right here. And everything is locked in and pixel perfect, I suppose. Everything looks clean. From here, I have a choice to make. Do I want to fill everything in with a 3-round liner? That would allow me to keep the integrity of all the pixels, but it's going to take a little bit longer. We have another option where we can bump up our needle to like maybe a 5 or 7-round liner, 7 and above maybe pushing it, but we could bump it up to like a 5-round liner to go ahead and cover more ground as we're filling in these areas. That's going to be 110% up to you. Neither of them are wrong. Again, it comes down to what you feel comfortable using as the artist. I feel like a good spot to begin is, I'll stick with the 3 for now, and I'm going to start by packing in these little square areas right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the edge and then just simply do small circular motions like this, basically all the way around, which is going to help me establish the boundary so I don't go outside of that. And this also helps me capture that pixel integrity. So once I'm done there, you can kind of see that if I wipe away, I get optimal saturation. I don't get any patchiness or anything. If there's any areas, and if they're tight areas, I would just simply use some dots to deposit the ink in those little areas that are tighter. Other than that, that's exactly how I would do it with a 3-round liner. Just simply going back and forth, establishing the boundary like this, and completing it. I'm still working off just the very tip of the needle. I'm not applying much pressure at all. I'm using just the very, very tip to apply that saturation. And you can kind of see each one takes about maybe 20 seconds or so. I really don't know because I'm not counting, but each one doesn't take too long. So we shouldn't have to be going over and over and over. If we're going over and over and over when we're trying to deposit saturation, that means our technique is off. So there we go. Just kind of one time in and out, I wipe away, and you can see I've accomplished optimal saturation. So the 3-round liner works fantastic for all of these little squares here. It's not too time consuming at all. But for like the eye area, I feel like a 5-round liner would be good. Maybe even a 7-round liner. But you can also see that using a 3 definitely gets the job done. I personally would stick with a 3 or a 5 just to keep the accuracy of the pixels, so that way you don't start rounding off the pixels. If you're applying ink with a bigger needle, that's definitely going to start rounding off those pixels because you're going to start going outside the bounds of these unified squares. So you can see right here, I go right up to the line, I stop right before it, small circular motions, and then I just kind of repeat that all the way around. There we go. Dab away. You can even put some ointment to make sure that you're not getting any patchy results. And we're not. Everything is still coming out clean and saturated. Same thing. You can see small circular motions. There we go. And we're getting clear, consistent results. That is something that I can repeat. So like this feels so comfortable applying these with a 3-round liner that it's repeatable for me. I'm not like hesitant, I'm not struggling, I'm not losing the integrity of the initial outline. Everything is remaining intact, and I'm accomplishing the goal that I set out to accomplish, which is to saturate this square. As you can see here, just small circular motions before I get out of the skin, and we're still accomplishing the saturation that I'm setting out to accomplish. I'm going to keep the exact same workflow for the remaining squares here, and then I can just kind of make my moves as I go. So the point of staying with the 3-round liner is to provide me with accuracy even through the saturation, not just the base layer, the lining. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away, and that's still great right there. I'm going to do small circular motions the exact same way. I do it right up to the line, and this gives me a thicker line to work off of. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away, wipe away, and that's great right there. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I feel fully comfortable using the 3-round liner because of the accuracy that it provides and how I can use multiple techniques with this small needle. I can shade if I want, I can saturate, I can line, I can do dot work. That's why the 3-round liner is one of my favorite needles. I can do multiple line weights by sculpting the lines. So 3-round liner is a really diverse needle in my opinion. And then I'm going to go around. You can kind of see the routine now and how it's done. If there's any parts that I essentially miss, like closer to the edges, I'll use dot work to go ahead and dab those into it. I'll just simply, use dots to finish packing. That's perfectly fine instead of having to use circular motions. Same thing right here. There we go. And then from here I can go ahead and put some ointment, wipe away, and that's great right there. Same thing right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use small circular motions. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away. And I'm going to do small circular motions like this. And back and forth. Since this is a bit of an open area, this is going to take a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean you want to start applying more force. You still want to be mindful of your pressure and just simply apply it the exact same way that you have been. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of ointment. I always have to have ointment and wipe away to make sure that I'm not doing any sort of patchiness here. And there we go. So from here, now I have a choice. I can go back in and finish all these small squares and then do these lines out here with a 5-round liner as it'll go by a little bit quicker. That's going to be up to you as the artist. So you can kind of hear out loud the thought process that I go through as I'm applying this tattoo. I'm not prioritizing rushing. I am prioritizing doing this with the I am prioritizing doing this in a manner that will yield the cleanest results for me, but also not eat up so much time as well. So there we go. Just using smaller circular motions to create the heavier boundary right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just do some dots here. There's some spots that are missing right there. And I think it'd be better to finish all the squares, switch to a needle, and then go back and then apply all of that, the larger areas with maybe a little bit heavier of a line weight. Same thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some ink, apply some ointment. Same thing right here, circular motions, and then you can see that all I'm doing is just essentially establishing a heavier line weight by using these small circular motions, and that line weight is also substituting for a fill, so it's like 2 in 1. I get to establish the boundary, make it more safer to work with, also while filling in the designated area that I need to fill in. So it's a 2 bird 1 stone type of thing for me here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I'll go ahead and do these right here. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some more ointment. I'm sorry, more ointment and ink, forgive me. And then I'm going to continue. So I know that these, or that the process may seem kind of boring, but it's not anything like special or any sort of secret. It's just patience and technical expertise, making sure that every time the needle touches the skin, we're doing exactly what we set out to do, and we're anticipating the results that we're going for. If we can do that, we're always going to get clear, clean, consistent results. So let me do it this way, and back and forth. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. There we go. Okay, so I feel like all of these squares came out great. There's a few or a couple right here that I can do as well, but for the most part, the single pixels are pretty much taken care of and reading fine. And when they heal, let's say theoretically, you know how ink spreads and settles in skin? Since I'm depositing with a 3-round liner, there shouldn't be too much difference from the healed version to the version that they walk out with, simply because of the accuracy of the deposits. Again, that is in theory. Results that healing results do vary from person to person. There's multiple contributing factors. So if we're ever getting like bad healing results and the ink spread quite a bit, that's probably because we just deposited too much ink in that area. So there we go. We have all of the main pixels done. I have another artistic choice to make here. Do I want to stick with a 3-round liner, or do I want to use a different round liner? This right here is going to be 110% up to you as the artist. It's important to remember there is no right or wrong. If you have the needle available, then go ahead and switch to a different needle. Like for example, you can see this is going to be a Mast Pro. I think it's going to be a 7 mag or a 9 mag, and it's just a straight mag, so therefore it goes perfect with this pixel design. I feel like this would speed up my flow quite a bit, but also allow me to still capture the integrity of the design without sacrificing the quality. So that's why I'm making the choice to go to this needle right here. You have to kind of think the same. You have to make sure when you're switching to a needle, you're not switching just because or for needle switch sake. You know, you have to make sure that you're doing it for a very calculated reason that's going to benefit you and your workflow as the tattoo artist. From here, the show still goes on. It's going to be the exact same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have adequate ink flow. That's of the utmost importance. Still running at the same voltage. I did not switch it yet. If I do, I'll let you know. But at this point, or at this far in the tattoo, I don't really see any reason why I would switch my voltage. So from here, I'm going to do the same thing. You can see how I'm going to line my needle up to the edge of the line that's already existing. And I'm just going to simply use circular motions to apply this area here. So start on one side and then make my way on over to the other. And you can see that switching to a mag covers more ground. Now it's only worth it if it's speeding up the workflow. It's not worth it if it's speeding up the workflow and sacrificing quality. So you can't have one without the other. You got to keep the quality intact. Always prioritize quality over time spent tattooing. Even if the tattoo took you 2 hours longer, using a smaller needle, then so be it. As long as you're not traumatizing the skin, as long as you're not overworking it, as long as you're giving the client what they ask for and your results are what you anticipate. I think if all of those align, then you're good. There we go, and that's nice and saturated in my opinion. So I feel comfortable applying the rest of the areas with this needle and this technique. It works out well. This area is a bit bouncy, but the entire thing's not that way. So it just makes this area right here a bit more challenging, which is like the equivalent to tattooing on like an elbow or something like that. So I'm just adjusting all the way through, angling my needle differently. You get the idea here. And then the same thing with this one. Let's see if we can do a pixel with this needle right here without sacrificing the integrity. So you can see I'm tipping my needle over way to the side. So that one's really tight, but you can see that we are getting it saturated and packed in there, so that's good right there. I'm gonna go back for some more ink, and then I'm gonna continue this workflow here. There we go. I'm just being extra careful, which takes a little bit more time. However, it covers more ground with less passes. So that's going to be what you feel comfortable ultimately using. You can use a 5-round liner. You can go back to your 3. None of it is wrong. I think it's wrong, like let's say if I was doing this right here, and then I'm removing the pixel integrity and rounding out these squares or these pixels, then yeah, that's when we're stepping into the territory we don't want to step into. Same thing over here. There we go. So 2 down. There we go. I'm gonna dab away, see the results. And so far, so saturated. Everything is looking great, exactly the way that I set out. These are the results that I'm looking for. I'm gonna continue with this needle to finish the remaining parts right here and all the way around, and then we can kind of go from there. I think that when it comes to tattooing, a big part of it is not only the technical side, but a big part of yielding good quality results is simply taking your time. There shouldn't be a rush, especially since tattooing has permanency involved with it. Like once it's there, it's there. We should really strive to always take our time and kind of express that if we're going to be tattooing clients, let them know that you do take your time, that you can't rush. You know, things like that really do come in handy. There we go. Clean and consistent. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. There we go. Put some ointment, wipe away, and we're still keeping the integrity. So that right there is a clear indication that I'm comfortable with this needle, and then I can kind of continue. So for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to put the mask this way, and then I'm going to begin establishing the boundary here. There we go. And then the same thing with these over here. I'm going to leave the single squares there for now, and I'll go ahead and go back to those. I could even go into the eyes right here and kind of be done with the entire middle. So we can go ahead and approach that. You can kind of see I'm just looking at everything, weighing it all out, and figuring out which one's the best to do right now. Still using the very tips of the needles. I'm not applying excessive force here or anything like that. I'm just letting my needle make enough rounds to deposit the ink for me. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and continue that with these other ones over here. I'm going to start with this eye, and then we can kind of continue front that way. Make sure I got adequate ink flow. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. And I'm going to do the same motions but this way. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and finish the other side over here and see where I'm going to go from there. If I'm going to switch back to the 3-round liner or if I'm going to finish with this needle. That's to be determined. Let me see right here. We're going to do this little one right here. There we go. Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to turn it this way, or actually no, we can go ahead and go this way. And then I'm just going to continue with these areas right here. So you can see real time exactly the process. Like It's really patient. It's really not time consuming because we're making progress on each pixel pretty quickly, but it really is a matter of just extreme patience. You really just got to be patient with the process. Don't rush it, especially if you're trying to capture a specific theme or style like this right here, pixels. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue to the bottom area right here. There we go. Perfect, and then I have just a few more, like maybe four more left that I can do with this needle. Don't get me wrong, I can do the pixels too with this needle, but I just feel like it comes really close and it cuts it close for me, a little too close for my comfort. So the fact that I naturally feel that way, I do not mind switching back to the 3-round liner for just a few pixels. There we go. I know I got a little quiet there, I apologize. However, I just want you to kind of observe my workflow and what I'm doing here so that we can kind of see it real time. I don't mean to kind of get quiet there. I do feel like I've said almost everything that I need to say in terms of this tattoo and applying it. So now I'm going to go this way right here. There we go. And I'm going to do this last one right here. And then I'm going to do this area right here. Okay, so there we go. I only have like 6-7 pixels, So I do feel confident to switch back to the 3-round liner and then use the 3-round liner to finish those 7 pixels. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that way I can guarantee that this tattoo walk out the door exactly as it was agreed upon. The minor, even the mildest shift can really set a bad tone with the client, and especially if they already agreed to it. If they already agreed to a specific design, why would we change it last second and sacrifice integrity of the agreed upon design? So that's why I'm switching to a 3-round liner, and then from there we can go ahead and call it a day for this session, and then we can come back later on and then pack white in the next one. But I feel like this one's going to run on for like an hour, so I don't want it to be multiple hours long. I feel like outlining this would be a great sitting, and then after that we can pack like I've mentioned. And the workflow stays the same. I'm still at 6 volts. All I've done is just switch back to the 3-round liner, and we're gonna continue applying everything here. So let's go ahead, and I guess since this one's over here, the lonely pixel, we can do this one first. The same thing, we're gonna establish the boundary, going right up to the line here, small circular motions, dab away, there we go, and then I'm gonna go back over here. Okay, that's 2 down, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing. If I notice any areas that I couldn't get precise with, or if any areas are off, then I could just simply dot them back up to finish those areas. That's perfectly okay. So if you have to go back and kind of touch some areas up, that's a part of the flow. There we go. And I'm going to do these last few here. I'm going back for some more ink just to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Wipe away the excess, and we'll go ahead and continue here. I'm going to do the same thing right here. And I'm going to do this last square, and that would be it for the base outline here. I'm still not going to rush it. I'm this close to the finish line. I don't want to drop the ball because we can in fact still ruin the tattoo right here at the end, and that's not what you want to do. Just be calm with it, do the exact same thing you've been doing. There's no need to get extra nervous or to do more or to even speed it up. So like now I think it's a good place to actually put a generous amount of ointment here, and then what we can do is see the actual results. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe with a generous amount of ointment. I'm going to remove all of the excess, loosen up what's seeped into the skin, so that way in the next episode when we apply white, it looks great and it's not all tainted and dirty. So So let's go ahead and clean this up really well, and then I'll give you a close-up look at it. Here is the final result right here. This is the final Jason pixel mask that I got. This is the base version right here, and I feel like it came out really well. From here, what I can do is I can go ahead and add the red if I'd like some little red pixels there. I'm not sure if that mask actually has red, but I do know that I can go in, and now is a good place, or I'm in a good position to actually start adding all of the white if that's something that we want to do. For this video, I'm going to keep it strictly to the pixel outline, so that way we can kind of do this in sections, as this one ran on quite a bit. However, all in all, the results, I do feel like I captured the pixel integrity. I do feel like it came out well, and I'm overall happy with these results. There's nothing that really stands out at all. Even the drift line that I did up there, it came out great once everything filled in. I'm confident that this is a design that would heal great as well. Now, that'll be it for this one. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'll do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. Once again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate your support very much. You have a great day.